So I really love this song, Take Heart, and even re-listening to it again this week, it's just meant a lot to me. Having watched the news and just feeling the heaviness and the brokenness that you see in the world that's going on, and it's easy to just feel so weighed down and just caught up in what all is going on. And it's just reminded me how more important than ever it is to just listen to each other, listen to what God is telling us and what He could be teaching us. And the verse that I've chosen is the one that comes from the song, which is Psalm 27:14. And it says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." And so the phrase take heart means to have courage and to trust. And so when you take heart in God, you are reminded to have courage and to trust God. And this call to take heart is a call to wait on God, even in the midst of difficulty or disappointment. And it's just taking the opportunity and the reminder to rest in God and to kind of just acknowledge our own emotions and what we're feeling and just sitting with God in them rather than brushing them off. And as we've been going through this church camp series, I have been reflecting on my own time that I spent at summer camp. And I always loved going to camp. I grew up going, and I went when I was too old to be a camper anymore. I was a counselor for 2 summers. And I just love camp because I just love seeing the way that God works in the hearts of all the kids who are there and of the counselors. And I just remember from camp that it's so much easier to just notice God when we're not so caught up in our own distractions and our busy schedules, and you're in nature and you get to spend time in God's creation and you're out of the routine and the pressures that you might feel in your everyday life. And another part that I had been thinking of from summer camp is one of the passions that I got was that of journaling. And journaling has become a really important thing to me, just to be able to have the space to process my emotions and to take my prayer requests and to take note of what God is teaching me. And so as I was thinking about this, I pulled out some of my old journals, and these are probably from the last 4 years or so. And I love getting to look back through them and just looking at the things that God taught me and things that I've learned and prayer requests that I've seen answered. And it's just really a cool way to be able to look back and see where God has been at work as I've taken note of it. And as I was looking back through my journals, I found one of the spiritual practices that we would go through at my summer camp. And we would use this if we were about to read scripture, or if we were about to worship, or if we were about to hear a devotional. And the practice was called Selah. And Selah is a Hebrew word. It appears quite a few times in the book of Psalms and a few other places in the Bible. And it's not exactly clear what the meaning is, but Bible commentators and studiers believe that Selah is originally a music term, and it means to pause and to reflect. You see it often in songs in the Bible. When you saw Selah, that meant that the singers were supposed to stop singing and you were just supposed to listen to the music, or it was a pause for those who were speaking the Bible, for people who were listening to pause and just reflect on what they were hearing. And I love using Selah as a spiritual practice, whether it is with worship or scripture, or if it's before prayer, or even if it's just a centering practice. I like to use it if I'm by myself, or if I'm at work, or even in my car, just to kind of take a second to pause and reflect and kind of let God in on what I'm processing. And so in Selah, the S stands for stop. And this means to just pause and physically stop where you're at and kind of notice your surroundings and what you're feeling physically and emotionally. And then the E stands for exhale. And so this means to physically kind of go through this, like actually releasing some of these burdens, kind of physically, like taking a deep breath, maybe relaxing your shoulders, taking a more relaxing posture. And the L stands for look. And so whether you're at home or wherever you are, if you're outside in God's creation, taking a second after you've acknowledged physically how you're feeling to look around and just notice your surroundings. And then the A stands for ask. This means to ask God to meet you, or if you are wrestling with a question, or if you needs a struggle that you need spoken into, or you're about to read a passage, to just ask God to be there and to meet you as you go through this. And the H is to hear, and this means to hear what God has to say, how he might be speaking to whatever prayer request you might have or struggle that you are wrestling through, to take the conscious time to actually ask him to answer, and that you would be able to listen. And so this idea of taking heart insinuates a waiting or a pause or an in-between. And in this, you pause. It's you taking the second to let God in as you process your surroundings and before you go forward from the pause. And so I encourage you this week, whether you are just having a busy week or if there are things that you are wrestling with or pieces of scripture that you need to meditate on, to just take the moment and go through that practice of stopping and noticing how you're feeling and what you're thinking, and physically exhaling, relaxing your posture, and looking around, noticing your surroundings, and then asking God to meet you, and then listening to what God has to say to you.
Woke up this morning, life as you know it looks nothing like the kind of life you knew before. All of a sudden, fear stole the headlines, and it don't feel safe to even step outside your door. In this world you will have trouble, but I have overcome the world. So take heart, take a breath, let me lift that heavy weight up off your chest. Take my hand, I know it's looking dark. When the world falls all around you, I won't let you fall apart. Take heart, take heart. Do you remember singing back when you were younger? He's got the whole world in his hands. Well, that's still true. I hold your family, all your friends, and all your loved ones. Even when you're barely holding on, I'm holding you. So take heart, take a breath, let me lift that heavy weight up off your chest. Take my hand, I know it's looking dark. When the world falls all around you, I won't let you fall apart. Take heart, take heart. take heart. In this world you will have trouble, but I have overcome the world. In this world you will have trouble, but I have overcome the world. So take heart, take a breath. Let me lift that heavy weight up off your chest. Take my hand, I know it's looking dark. When the world falls all around you, I won't let you fall apart. Take heart, child, take